Hey guys, Candice Malcolm here. We are live. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a very nice and calm and relaxing holiday. This is our first live broadcast of 2019, so hope this is finding everyone well. Let me know where you're watching from and what you did over the holidays. I think most people are now back from holidays, although I guess some people are still on vacation and we'll be back at work next week, but lots going on in the news today. I couldn't help but do a live over one particularly concerning item that was in the news today. So I will get to that in a minute. I'll just wait for a few more people to jump on here on the Facebook Live. It always takes a while to get people watching on Facebook. Over on Twitter, people jump on right away. And that's great, but I like to wait a couple minutes just while people are jumping on Facebook. So hope people had a good vacation. I was down in Palm Springs, California myself, and there's a lot of Canadians down there. I was pretty surprised. I've been down there before, but over the Christmas break, it just seems like that's the place to be for Canadians. So my husband and I went hiking, and we saw like 4 people in a row with either wearing like Edmonton Oiler hats or Canada shirts or speaking French, obviously Quebec French. And it was kind of nice to be around a bunch of Canadians. So hope you guys had a good break. Hopefully wasn't too cold or snowy where you were. All right, let's get to it here. You might have seen this link popped up over the holiday. I myself saw it. It was getting shared on Twitter and on Facebook. And what I'm talking about, of course, is this new political party called the Islamic Party of Ontario. And you might have seen this. It was getting shared quite a bit on the social media over Christmas and New Year's. And I have to admit, when I first saw it, I thought it was some kind of a joke or a prank or, just online kind of troublemakers, because it just seemed too bizarre to be real. And especially reading through the language that they use. So, I mean, it's almost exactly what you would expect for folks who follow and are concerned by radical Islam and some of the sort of fundamentalist approaches that are taken within and by those who sort of, are fundamentalists within their religion. But the wording is just kind of funny. Like basically what the platform calls for here is that since the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms recognizes that Canada is founded upon principles that recognizes the supremacy of God, so since our Constitution is based on that line, the supremacy of God, and since the Islamic Party believes that by supremacy of God, that means Allah for them. So therefore, basically God, Allah, is the natural governing body of Ontario. And they want Ontario to be ruled by Sharia. They spell it all out. Islam means surrender and peace. They give you a long sort of justification and history of how it is that their God is superior. And then they go into all of the really dicey kind of stuff that fundamentalists believe in. And I mean, just the language. This is why I didn't really think it was real at first, because I'll give you one passage here. It says, "The relationship established under a marriage contract is a sacred union between a man and a woman. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve." That's a direct quote from their platform. So, I mean, that just doesn't really seem like something that a serious political party would write. It seems like the kind of silly argument, I guess, that was sort of made by the Christian right like 20 years ago. And you don't really hear that anymore. And so here it is right out in the platform of this political party. And that's just sort of one example. There are many. And so basically what these folks are calling for, like I said, is Sharia law in Canada. And my colleague over at the Toronto Sun, Tarek Fatah, had an article out today about this group. He's done some digging and some research into it. And someone's saying on Twitter that they're also trying to advocate for Sharia across all of Canada, not just Ontario. Yeah, that's right, because it's based on their principle that they believe the Charter of Rights and Freedom in Canada is actually talking about their religion. Of course, when Charter was written, that the Charter of Rights and Freedom was written by when Pierre Trudeau was in power. He was a devout Catholic, and so presumably, you're talking about a Christian God, and Canada is was founded by Christians, and it was founded as a Christian nation. So a little bit of confusion, but yeah, as my colleague Tarek Fatah points out, basically the principles that they want are to establish Islam as the natural religion of Ontario, to quash LBGT rights because, quote, God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. They call for a complete ban on abortion. They call on an end of the concept of gender identity. And they call on a complete ban of liquor, drugs, adultery, and gambling. There was also sort of a creepy passage in here. Let me see if I can find it. I forgot to highlight it. But it was something along the lines of, all people are the children of God. However, Muslims are the sort of chosen people of God. And so they sort of outline the idea that there would be different rights for people of different religions, which is pretty counter to life in Canada. So anyway, my colleague Tarek Fatah wrote this piece today in the Toronto Sun, and he unveiled an interesting tidbit. So according to the Sun and according to this article, the Islamic Party of Ontario was officially reserved with Elections Ontario in October 2018, and more steps required to become a formal party. So this is real. This isn't some kind of a twisted joke. This isn't a group of sort of renegades or a group of people who have created this as a joke. This is real. They're registered, and they actually are proposing this. They want this to be a thing in Canada, which is kind of, concerning. Is this where our country is headed? The idea that there will be political parties who are openly advocating for very illiberal ideas, for religious governance, for Islamic law in Canada, not just for Muslims, but for all Canadians. That sort of seems to be where we are headed, as this thing is real. Interesting too, when I first stumbled upon this page, this Islamic page, Islamic Party of Ontario, the comments on the bottom, because there's a comment section, and they were actually all pretty, positive. There wasn't people, making fun of how offside and how outside the norm this is. You have people saying, good start, good job, interesting, intriguing, outstanding, peace be upon you. There's still a lot of these comments up there, but now it's mixed with Canadians who have also found this page and are questioning, why this actually exists. People saying that Islamic Sharia law is not welcome in Canada, etc., etc. So there is now a mix in the comment section, but it's still surprisingly positive given how offside these are. And that I guess that's part of the thing that really just surprised me about this page is, usually people who have these sort of fundamentalist views don't broadcast them out in the open in Canada. They sort of keep them hidden within their own community. They deny them when accusations are made in the media, or if a quote is taken out of context, like someone records a sermon at a mosque and then it's interpreted into English, they'll usually say, it's taken out of context within the broader context of what we're talking about. Whereas this is in plain English, spelled out for all to see exactly how extreme some of the ideas are that come from extremists and fundamentalists in the Muslim community. So back to Tarek Fatah's story, he not only confirms that the party is real and that they have officially registered under the Elections Ontario, but also that the leader of the party, the head of the party, an individual called Jawed Anwar, had previously threatened Tarek Fatah. So back in October, he wrote a column that was written about American Jewish activist Laura Loomer described Tariq Fatah of the Toronto Sun as an Islamophobe, an Islamophobe. So that is someone saying there's no fan of Islam, but you have zero proof of these ridiculous claims. A website means nothing. It's not just a website here, folks. This is an official political party that has registered in Ontario. So it's not just a random website. That was my point that I made earlier, if you were listening. When I first saw the website, I thought it was just a random kook running a website. The story in the newspaper today confirms that this is a real political party, and it's run by an individual who's actually pretty high profile and influential in the Thorncliffe neighborhood, Thorncliffe Park neighborhood in Toronto, which, as people might know, that's the same area where the Danforth shooter was from. So anyways, this is not just a website, this is a political party. And so the individual who runs the party had once called Tariq Fatah Islamophobe. That's an odd accusation because Tariq is himself Muslim, and not just that, but he is a Muslim activist. He's a crusader. He when I say crusader, I mean he is a strong, steadfast defender of Muslims in the West and defending Western values. So he's an advocate for modernizing Islam and progressive, sort of liberal Islam that fits within the Canadian context. And he's very critical of radical Islam. So it's bizarre and stupid to call him an Islamophobe. He doesn't just get called an Islamophobe by this group. He gets called an open enemy of Islam and a hate purveyor, which is a pretty harsh criticism of a pretty remarkable individual. And Tariq Fatah is a hero. He's no stranger to controversy. He's had death threats and fatwas against him in India and Pakistan in the past. He was actually, there was 2 individuals in Toronto that were arrested outside of his home, and he was the subject of many death threats. So he's used to this, but I think it's pretty alarming and concerning that this is all happening in Canada, and that the head of a political party would openly issue a threat, a veiled threat, an open threat to a journalist and a Muslim activist, a dissenting voice within the Muslim community in Canada. That's really counter to, I think, Canadian rights and freedoms in our democracy, the norms that we operate in. Political parties shouldn't be out making threats, especially against journalists. And if you claim to be the Islamic Party of Ontario, you shouldn't run around calling critics Islamophobes and targeting dissenting Muslims and name calling them. So it's all pretty interesting and alarming. Whoops, sorry about that. And I think that this is going to come as quite a concern to most people, because this is sort of where we are, where we're at in 2019, is that Canada is a free and open society where people can say and do what they want. We don't have restrictions on speech. We don't have restrictions on political parties that say that you can't be a political party if you believe in certain things. And so this is sort of the inevitable consequence and outcome of our sort of free and open society, juxtaposed with the sort of cultural relativism and mass migration and reluctance to call out and criticize other cultures. So, you have liberals who want to celebrate diversity and want to celebrate things like, having plenty of Muslims in Canada, but at the same time, a lot of the positions and the ideas and the values that this Islamic Party of Canada is presenting are incredibly counter, to a free society, but also to just sort of liberal progressive values. I mean, they want to outright ban homosexuality. They want to outright ban alcohol use, outright ban abortion, ban drug use, marijuana, all of the things that the left advocates for. And it's going to be interesting to see how these two competing forces come together, and who's going to speak out about this. What will Prime Minister Justin Trudeau have to say about a political party like this? I'm sure that many of the people who potentially might support this party are allies of Trudeau, maybe voted for Trudeau. And yet at the same time, you know, the progressive sort of values that Trudeau champions are not at all represented in this vision. And, you know, if it were a conservative group, if this were the, you know, the Mormon Party of Ontario, and it had the exact same platform and the exact same views, you can imagine how quickly and easily it would be condemned, and the subject of sort of mockery and investigative reports and all that kind of thing. And yet, you know, because it's the Islamic Party of Ontario presenting very liberal ideas and views, there hasn't been any news stories written about it yet in Canada. There has been that one story that I mentioned by Tariq Fatah, which was an opinion column. I saw something quickly written up about it in the Post-Millennial. Here it is: Elections Ontario grants Islamic Party of Ontario first step towards registration. So this is the first news report I've seen from independent website source, the Post-Millennial. And then there's some stories out of Israel about it. Canadian journalists threatened by Islamic Party. So nothing yet from the mainstream media. We will have to wait and watch what their reaction is. But yeah, you know, this is sort of something that you could see coming. It was inevitable in Canada that eventually there would be these political parties that break off and have this sort of fringe ideas. It's interesting that they promote them out in the open because, again, usually Islamists and fundamentalists try to hide their views, and they're not so coy about it. They don't put it in writing. They don't put it in plain English. And yet here we have a political party doing just that. So are they emboldened? Are they ignorant? Are they naive? Or, you know, is this just what they believe and they think that there might be a political appetite for it? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. I'll do an update if there are more stories or if we learn more about this political party and as the story progresses. But I had to just jump on and talk about it because I think it's pretty alarming, pretty interesting, and pretty disheartening, especially the fact that the leader of the party is allegedly threatening and name-calling a journalist and a dissenting Muslim voice, my colleague Tariq Fatah, the Toronto Sun. So I'll leave it there. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, happy 2019. Hope everyone's doing well. And I will be back live again on Friday. So take care. Please like and share this video.